Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey there, private practice heroes. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and today I want to talk to you about one of the most underestimated pages on a website, particularly for practice owners and service providers, your About page. This is a page that many overlook the power that it has in converting visitors on your website into clients. But if you think about how people behave and the path that they follow when visiting a website, even if somebody referred them to you, you realize how important this page is to making those discovery calls happen, to turning those people visiting your website into someone that is becoming a paying client. People will visit your website to check you out, and your About page plays a big role in this action, and an even bigger role in their decision to take the next step and contact you to get started. Yet, many of us don't place as much importance on this one particular page as we should. In fact, I often feel that some pages read more like a faceless resume instead of giving people what they came for when they clicked on your About page. They want to know about you. They want to know they can trust that you're someone who can help them. They got to your page because they have a problem. And no matter how they got there, whether they found it themselves or someone told them to check you out, to look you up, to possibly work with you, they are still going to want to know who you are. And this page helps them understand that. Back in 2021, HubSpot did a poll and a study, and they found that 85% of consumers will say they'll only do business with someone they trust. So they need to trust that you are the person that's going to help them. And the About page on your website plays a very big role in giving them the information they're looking for to gain that trust. It is one of the first places on your website potential clients will go to understand more about you. Yet it is one of those pages that very often fails to convey the right message to those visitors, a message that should be helping them make that decision to work with you. But without realizing what content can help people make that decision, a lot of practice owners and service providers have content on their About page that does nothing to build that trust and help them feel comfortable in the decision they're choosing. And what happens is they end up exiting your website and leaving. Not because you couldn't help them, but because you didn't offer them the information they were looking for so that they could feel you were that exact person who could help them. So if you're ready, I want to talk to you a little bit about you and your About page so that you understand why it is so important, what the common mistakes are that a lot of service providers and practice owners make with this page. And that way you'll know what to avoid and what to plan for when creating the content for your About page. And I'm going to mention at this point, because I know some of you folks, my American friends out there listening in, are giggling about my pronunciation of the word about. I know you're thinking she keeps saying aboot. I am not saying aboot, I am saying about. So let's get that clear from the start here. So try to stop hearing the word aboot and focus on listening in here, because it's more important that you understand this About page information than focusing in on the way I'm pronouncing it. And you can say what you want, but I am not saying aboot. Well, I did there, but for the most part here, the word is about, and that's what I'm saying. That About page, by the way, is one of those 4 core website pages every service provider should have. And if you want to know what those other core website pages are, listen into episode 82 of the podcast because I share more details on those pages. And in fact, there's a little series of episodes there that will help you understand a little more about the role of those pages on your website. But today we're going to focus on one of the top 4, the About page. And what I want to share with you are 5 mistakes that you want to avoid when it comes to creating content and putting messages on your About page. And I'm also going to share here that as I was preparing for this lesson and planning what I wanted to share with you as information, I was looking at my own website, and I will tell you, I am not above this same problem here. I will definitely, as I go through the end of the year here and into my New Year's planning, be setting aside some time to review and improve my own page as well. So the first mistake that I want to talk to you about here, we really have covered in this conversation we've had so far. It's underestimating the power that About page has with potential clients. Now, if you've ever gone back and tracked the activity and history and the path of visitors on your website, you'll often see how many people, in fact, do visit that website page. What I see when working with clients and reviewing their analytics is more a path like this. And it's very similar for most of my clients, myself included. People visit the homepage. Then they click on the About page. Then they hit the Contact page. The next busiest page in that path tends to be the Overview of Services page. And then the Contact page comes at the end if they hit the Services page. So it's kind of like that 1, 2, 3 on what people are typically looking for on any website when they're exploring. And that About page is a very important part in the path they're taking. So when you think about what someone is thinking about as they're visiting a website, you realize that About page probably does have much more importance than you give it. The homepage, they always hit that because it's often where they're led to in the first place. They scroll about on the homepage, reading and thinking, and then they decide, maybe this person can help me, but who is this person? In order to answer the question, they click the button on your homepage that says, learn more about me, something to that effect. Now, that visitor at this point is trying to decide, is this person somebody I should be working with? Can they help me? So this action and behavior that is very typical of someone seeking out help for this problem, whatever it is that they have, that behavior is why the About page is critical as a key page for visitors. And it's why it's also so critical what message you have on the page, the content that you've got there. When you have the right message on this page, it's going to be the page that often leads them to go book a discovery call with you or straight up book an appointment. And I bet you're now thinking here too, crap, what is on my About page? Well, I'll tell you, that's exactly what I was thinking as I was writing all of this up to prepare for recording this podcast. And like I said, if you go back and look at your website and look at your About page, you're often going to be looking at it and thinking, okay, I really didn't think about that. And this is often where mistake number 2 comes into in this whole process. And it's another one you want to avoid: random planning of the content for your About page. This is one I am very guilty. And I know it's why my page looks currently right now the way that it is. It is not a page that I've ever really planned out, not the same way I have the home page, not the same way I have a contact page, or even a services page or a page about my programs. But it's one of those 4 core pages. And almost everybody overlooks planning that About page content. When I do website reviews for my clients or members in the Thrive Marketing Academy, this is where I often see these patterns of content that's not helpful. And I'm not saying that they're the only ones that have had this, because frankly, I was making this mistake as well. But it is why I decided to do a couple episodes on this very topic. It is extremely common for service providers to put the content on their About page as the last kind of content you would ever think about planning. But it really does need to be planned because you want to give those visitors exactly what they need to know about you so that you can help them make that decision and take the next step. It will be a page that has information about you, but it really should be all about your potential customer. So yes, it is content about you, but at the same time, it can't focus on you. So there is a way to have that balance of sharing the expertise you offer, giving them insight into who you are, but also making sure that you're putting the content there in such a way that you're helping take those visitors, let them know exactly how you can help them, and move them to the next stage. Random planning is often what leads to mistake number 3. And this is a very common thing that I see out there, is not giving people the here and now information they need to make that decision about working with you. Often the content that people place on the website on an about page needs to be focused on sharing a message that will help those visitors gain the trust in you that they are looking for when they clicked from wherever they were on your website to go to your about page. Once they get there, they now want to know more about you, but they want to know it in a way that helps them understand more. And honestly, they're looking for answers to 5 simple questions. Questions that will give them exactly what they need to know about you in order to finalize their decision about you. And those 5 questions are, is this person someone who can help me? Do they understand my problem? Can they actually help solve my problem? What kind of help can I get? And how do I start? Those 5 questions, if you can answer those with the content on your about page, it will be very helpful in them feeling that they've made the right choice here. And it's funny because one of the most common presentations of content that I see on about pages is very similar to what happens in networking groups when people are sharing their elevator pitch too. What I see happening in these situations is often that people go back in time. They go back to when they were younger and they had their aha moment that made them decide to take this path in life that led them to today. And it's almost always interesting information. I will be very clear about that. But it's not always relevant in the moment for that website visitor making a decision about working with you. When people are on your website looking to decide, are you the person I want to work with? And you have, remember, we only have less than 10 seconds to give them that impression and share that message. They're not looking at this point to go down memory lane with you, not at first. They want to know what you're doing today and that you have the skills and expertise to help them out. To be clear, I am not at all saying you cannot go into how you got here. But if this is your top message, it could be what is stopping people from getting the critical information about you that your about page needs to deliver. They want to confirm their thinking of whether or not you are the person they can trust with their problems. So sharing your past at the top of that page in the very beginning can be risky. There are always exceptions to this, I will let you know. But for the most part, people don't want to hear your background at this point. They want to know that you can help me today, here and now. So your about page content needs to deliver this immediately. Then you can dive into sharing the background information, the supporting content, that aha moment that led you to where you are, because it may be a big part of your story. But with a few exceptions, diving into that story at the beginning isn't going to help you build the trust that they're looking for. So I want you to think about that if that is something that you have on your page at the top in the beginning. Now, of course, talking about this is going to lead us to the next mistake that a lot of people want to make sure they're avoiding, which is forgetting to guide visitors on a journey on this very critical website page. Content planning for an about page is really, as I said earlier, just as important as any other page. And there's a path that you want visitors to follow when they get here. So you've got to be the person that guides them and gives them the way that they can move from they've already been on your homepage probably, now they hit your about page. Where should they go next? How can they book a call with you? How can they get started? That's one of the questions they want to know. But a lot of people forget to put some of those calls to action on their about page, those CTAs that will guide people on the next steps. About pages are no exception to the rule I have of every page on your website needs a CTA to give to visitors and guide them to what they can do next. And that might include things like a link to your services page. Maybe there's some content you have where you talk about your services and you can have a link where they can discover more. Maybe you're talking about a link to book that free discovery call. Maybe you're talking about a link to read more about your backstory. All of these are CTAs that will guide people on how they go from reading the content, feeling good about their decision, and then sharing with them the exact step and path they need to take to reach out to you. So never skip including content that leads people to that next step with you. If you do, that is just another one of these small mistakes that would truly block people from booking those discovery calls or signing up to work with you. Sometimes we just need that little push of, hey, if you want to get to this point here and you want my help, start here. Now, the last thing you do not want to do is mistake number 5. You want to be sure that you avoid this. And it is an extremely common one. I have to say, if I ever had to say that the most pages or websites that I've reviewed have been missing this, have had this mistake, it really and truly is this. And it's leaving the you out of the About You page content. I really shouldn't have to say this, but the fact is I do. I cannot tell you how many times I've visited a service provider's website or a practice owner's site, and I haven't been able to tell who owns the business, the name of the service provider, the name of the CEO of the business. About 70% of the time, when I do reviews and audits and checks like this, the last name of the person is missing. But there are a lot more times where someone's entire name, a solopreneur, a business where some one person is the practice owner, is the person that people are going to hire, and their name is not there at all. Not at all. No first name, no last name. It talks more about the business or refers to the team, but not saying who the team is, who the people are behind it. Listen, nobody wants to work with someone who cannot even share their name on their website. That is the worst way you can go about building trust. And it's probably the best way to lose potential clients, especially in the industry where I work the most with people, which is where you are selling your expertise. Your services are based on your knowledge, your experience, your training, your background. And if that is what you offer and you do not have your name on your About page, it is going to be very challenging for anybody to trust that you could help them because they don't even know who you are. And I will say, not only should you have your name there, but your face should be there too. So get your picture, get a profile photo on there of you as well. Those two items together will help ensure and solidify that feeling that people are getting to know you a little bit more. You simply cannot build trust with someone and the services they might offer when someone doesn't even know your name. So this is extremely important that you get you into the About You page content. Nobody wants to hire a nameless, faceless stranger, especially not in a service-based industry. When your service is your expertise, your brilliance, your knowledge is what you offer people, they are going to want more than ever to get to know you, as opposed to other businesses where someone might sell a product. I'm not as worried about knowing the business owner if I'm going into a store and buying clothes or purses or shoes. But if I want someone to be coaching me, to giving me nutrition counseling, to giving me business coaching advice, whatever it might be, that service, accounting experience, and accounting help, even that type of service, I want to know who the person is, and I want to know that I can trust them as well. Again, if your About page gives them that insight, that's great. And you can always go into the backstory and more about your background in other ways. And that is the last of those 5 mistakes that I want to make sure that you're avoiding on your About page. Because if you don't have them happening there, you're going to be making sure that website visitors are getting that build of trust in you as the exact person they need to help them with their problem. And when they feel that way, that's when they're going to reach out and ask to book that discovery call and get started. But if your About page has any of these issues on it, you may just be seeing more people bouncing off and exiting your website than reaching out to you. So as a quick reminder, those 5 mistakes you want to avoid are underestimating the power the About page has with potential clients, random planning of the content for your About page. I am definitely guilty of that one. Not giving people the here and now information they need to make a decision. So you want to make sure that you're telling them who you are now. Get into the backstory and memory lane a little later down on the page. Forgetting to guide visitors on a journey by having calls to action on what they can do next, where they can get more information, what else they can look at to learn more about you. The last one, which is the most important one, is leaving the you out of the About You page content. Now, you know I would never leave you hanging with a list of mistakes to avoid and no advice on what to do instead. So be sure to stay tuned to the podcast next week for part 2 of this lesson, where I'm going to offer you some tips and strategies on what kind of content you can include on your About page that helps you avoid these mistakes and, more importantly, helps convert more of those visitors into clients. So your action steps from today is really, I just want you to be aware of what these mistakes are and go take a look at your website. Look at that About page the same way I did, with a bit of a critical eye, and see if you're making some of those mistakes. And decide that if you are in fact doing them, do you need a bit of a fix-up? If your answer is yes, be sure you hit follow wherever you're listening to the podcast today so that you can get notified when next week's episode is out. And I will give you some more advice on planning that About page content so that you can get more clients from that very overlooked and underestimated page. It really does have a lot of power. So you want to make sure you lean into that power by planning strategically what you're putting on that page for content. And that's it for today, folks. This is Kathy Colaiacovo signing off. Thank you again for tuning into the episode today. And if you are some of my new listeners from Overcast, I really hope that you and everyone else listening are finding these insights helpful. My best advice I can leave you with today is to remember, if you want to thrive in practice and business, it starts by ensuring that people who want to know more about you have the information they're looking for so they can build that trust that taking the next step with you is their best choice to make. I'll see you next time. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.